We're going to talk a little bit about the president's offer to give a Texas man a job, or at least help him find a job. Joining us on the phone right now, Joe Wurzelbacher. You know him better as Joe the Plumber. Good morning, Joe.
Hey, good morning, brother.
Well, you have definitely approached the president and made some news during one of his events that he's held out on the street. Were you surprised that the president would offer to help a Dallas man find a job and ask for his resume?
Well, not at all. I mean, the federal government's been overreaching and getting into the private market for years now. It's a great media stunt, to encourage goodwill. So it makes perfect sense for a politician to do that.
Not so great if he doesn't help him find the job, though, right?
Well, ultimately, it's not his responsibility nor his job. His job, which he doesn't like to perform, is to create a tax code system which encourages and gives opportunities for people to start their own companies or to work for a business instead of pushing them overseas or out of business. So he's got it backwards. He himself shouldn't insert himself personally in this role. He should be working on the environment that actually creates jobs, the private market.
So, Joe, I think it's interesting because even though you did step into it at one point, you're actually looking at the president now saying, hold back on this because there's no way you can really do what you said you'd do.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's just the role of the government has gone way too far into our private lives at a social level and definitely at an economical level. For example, you take the automobile industry. Ultimately, the federal government's responsible for cutting its legs out from underneath it through the tough regulations that we enact upon the automobile industry and our tax code system. So they bailed them out because they beat them up. And nothing's changed since then. We still have the same tax code system. We have more regulations, so it's going to happen again given time. The federal government's just not doing its job, so they're pandering to people. And, sooner or later, the American people are going to sit up and say, hey, we don't want you pandering to us no more. Be a leader. Do the right thing instead of the short-term thing that creates more problems down the road.
We know him as Joe the Plumber. Joe Wurzelbacher joining us here on Houston's Morning News. Joe, if you'll hang on for a second, we're going to do traffic and weather together. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what you've been up to. Well, Joe, looking at your life, it's completely changed. How's the race for Congress going?
Oh, the race is going absolutely incredible. People are donating left and right. We're getting our message out there as far as labeling me the candidate for the rest of us. Everyone that doesn't have a voice, who's thrown their shoe at the TV or wanted to knock it down every once in a while because they see the stupidity that encompasses the federal government and some of the mistakes they make, and then obviously just the overreaching. And that's really what it comes down to. I'm working towards limiting the federal government and encouraging strong states' rights because I believe that's essentially the key to prosperity.
If you are elected and move into Congress and go to Washington, chances are that you'll have to work with the president. Do you think tensions might be tough between you and President Obama if you're sitting down at a table and trying to negotiate an issue?
Well, I don't know about you, but I've worked in the private market all my life, and usually people are intimidated, scared when someone comes in and expects people to work for a living. I don't know how many times I've come into a crew, and I like working. I enjoy putting a good 8-10 hour day in, and I like getting something done at the end of my day and then having something good to show for it. And so when I come in there and they're used to being lazy and not accomplishing as much as they could, they get upset, they get angry. So I expect I'll anger a lot of Republicans in that sense, and also a lot of Democrats, because we need to show something to the American people, what can be done as far as with tax reform and some of these regulations that are just out of control. So, yeah, there'll definitely be some tension.
Mm-hmm. Joe Wurzelbacher joining us this morning. Joe the Plumber. You have one of those kind of inspiring American stories. As you look back on the day that you drew all this media attention, are you surprised by it? How's your life changed in good and bad ways from that very day that you approached the president?
Well, honestly, brother, really just the perception of me has changed as far as people. I'll talk on the radios or go on TV and do events in that regard, but ultimately, I haven't changed. I'm still the same guy. I still plumb. I got to do whatever it takes to feed my family. So plumbing, building houses, taking trees down, speaking at events around the country. I do anything and everything to make sure my bills are paid and things are squared away there. The key to this is staying grounded. And I figure by the time you're 30 years old, you ought to know where you stand on things in life, political, socially. you know, that's the whole idea about growing up and maturing. These politicians who sit there and change their mind depending on who they're in front of, and they're not really changing their mind. They really don't have any kind of backbone. They sit there and go with the flow, whatever is popular or whatever gossip or drama that's been drawn up. They use it as a tool, and unfortunately, by doing that, you see where we're at today. I mean, it's just unemployment is huge. Businesses are leaving the country in droves. It's terrible.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Joe the Plumber. We've had him on several times. Always inspirational, Joe Wurzelbacher on Houston's Morning News.